Hi, my name is Carrie Baatz. I'm the Community Training Coordinator at the Independent Center, and you are listening to a training called Emotional Support Animals, Knowing Your Rights and Responsibilities if you own an emotional support animal or if you want to own one. At the Independent Center, we are really passionate about advocating for people with disabilities, and we know that emotional support animals can be such an incredible and important source of support if you have a disability. And so in this training, we really want to talk to you about the benefits of emotional support animals, what they do, what they don't do, and we want to give you some information about what your rights and responsibilities are if you own an emotional support animal or want to own one, so that you can make informed choices about your animal, and also so that you can find resources that can help you access what you need and help you advocate for your rights. We'll be sharing some fun information and resources with you. Just a disclaimer, I am not an attorney, and so this information that I'm sharing with you is really intended to be public information and guidance, but it's not intended to be legal advice. So if you finish listening to this training and have some legal questions or some questions about a specific situation that you're going through, I encourage you to reach out to us at the Independent Center, and we can walk you through your situation and support you, and we can connect you with an attorney to help you with legal questions if you need that. So when we think about assistance animals, there's a lot of confusion in the community about what's the difference between a service animal and an emotional support animal and other types of assistance animals. And so it's helpful sometimes to just kind of break these assistance animals up into categories and really understand their roles, and that can kind of help clear up confusion. So in this slide, you're looking at 5 different categories that we'll touch on really briefly. We've got service animals, which go through very specific training and have protections under the Americans with Disabilities Act. We've got emotional support animals, which is really the focus of this training. They provide support and have protection under the Fair Housing Act. There's a class of assistance animals called court facility dogs, and these are newly recognized in the state of Colorado as of 2019. So if you have a court facility dog, you can actually take that dog into court with you if you need to testify. The dog needs to be trained. You need to go through a process with the court and provide documentation, but you can have that dog with you in court to testify with you. There's also therapy animals, which sometimes can be confused with emotional support animals. But really with therapy animals, and what sets them apart from emotional support animals is that they are owned by a licensed therapist or another licensed medical provider. So think about hospital settings where a therapist might bring in a therapy dog to engage with patients while they're in the hospital recovering. That's an example of a therapy animal. And then lastly, we have pets. And as incredible and amazing as pets are, and as much as we love them, they do not have the same rights as other animals who've gone through certification or have gone through training. So if you have a pet who hasn't gone through emotional support animal certification or training to be a service animal, then that pet does not have any legal rights. So starting off, what is a service animal? It can help to understand kind of the basic role of a service animal when we talk about emotional support animals, because it can help us kind of understand the difference between the two. So a key thing to know about service animals is that they either are going to be a dog or in some cases a miniature horse. And we've got a beautiful golden horse on this slide with a blonde mane, kind of reminding us that service animals can either be a miniature horse or a dog. And these animals go through very extensive training to help a person with a disability on a specific task that they need help with. So thinking about a guide dog who might be helping a blind person navigate through a building. Service animals could also be, helping remind a person to take their medication. A service horse might help a person with balance, or you might think also of a hearing dog who is trained to alert a deaf person when someone comes to their door, when they ring a doorbell. So now we're going to talk about what emotional support animals are. So emotional support animals, kind of like their name suggests, they provide emotional support to people who have mental health challenges or symptoms that are part of their disability. So an emotional support animal might help a person alleviate depression or PTSD symptoms or anxiety or even certain phobias. You have here a cute little black pug who's reclining on what looks like a really comfy red cushion. And this kind of reminds me of just the comfort and the comforting relationship that emotional support animals can offer. A really key difference between emotional support animals and service animals is that emotional support animals do not have specific training to perform tasks that assist somebody with a disability. So they're really there to help a person emotionally manage symptoms of a disability, but they don't have training to perform tasks the way that service animals do. So on this slide, we have a picture of a black cat and kind of an amber-colored dog hanging out together. And this is a reminder that emotional support animals can be really any animal that you can legally own. This is the other key difference between service animals and emotional support animals. Emotional support animals might be a cat or a dog or even a reptile, a bunny rabbit, a bird, really any animal that's providing emotional support and helping you with mental health challenges. That can be an emotional support animal potentially to you. So some of the roles that emotional support animals give to us, they provide an incredible healing relationship. If a person has challenges or struggles forming close relationships with humans, either because of past trauma or because of a disability, the animal and an emotional support role can actually provide that social support and can be an incredible source of healing. That bond can be truly healing for a person. And in that relationship, these animals provide comfort and grounding and a sense of safety. And oftentimes, if you are working with a therapist or another mental health professional, they might actually want to incorporate your emotional support animal into their treatment, into their therapy work with you. So just kind of unpacking some more specific benefits that emotional support animals can offer to people who have mental and emotional disabilities. They have an incredible and unique way of assisting with regulating emotions, and they can do this in a way that medications can't, and oftentimes in a way that other coping tools can't, simply because they're animals and they provide that unique relationship. So if you're somebody who has ongoing stress in your life or ongoing emotional challenges, having that emotional support animal can help you regulate your emotions. Simply, that animal's presence, the calmness that they oftentimes exude, can even just simply being next to them can help regulate emotions. But in addition to that, having that animal there with you can help you with mindfulness. If you're dealing with a stressor, that animal can be a reminder to take your attention back to the present moment. And in doing that, these animals over time can help us alleviate anxiety, reduce depression. There was one study that was published in the Journal of Evidence-Based Social Work that found that when people who had PTSD spent even just a week with an emotional support animal, their symptoms were reduced by 82%, which is incredible. So these animals, provide amazing support. It is important to keep in mind that emotional support animals don't have the same training that service animals do to perform a specific task. And so because of that, they're not considered service animals under the Americans with Disabilities Act. So what are my rights and responsibilities if I have an emotional support animal? We're going to give you some information that can help you navigate that. So there are 4 laws that protect the rights of people with disabilities: the Americans with Disabilities Act, the Fair Housing Act, the Colorado Assistance Animal Law, and the Air Carrier Access Act. These laws all give people with disabilities latitude and rights with taking their assistance animals in the public, in housing, and in airports and airlines. And there's some differences depending on if you have a service animal or an emotional support animal. There's some differences as to where you can take these animals because of the different levels of training that these types of animals have that we talked about. So let's start with service animals. Under the Americans with Disabilities Act, service animals are allowed to go pretty much anywhere that the public is allowed. So think about libraries and restaurants and businesses, community centers, schools, public transportation, doctors' offices, government buildings, airports and airlines, with very, very few exceptions. If you have a service animal, you can take that service animal with you pretty much wherever you need to go. Now, with emotional support animals, there's more limits as far as where you can take emotional support animals because they don't have that same training. They're not as equipped as service animals are to be in public around other people and around other animals. Ideally, your emotional support animal is housebroken, but your emotional support animal isn't required to have training beyond that. So because of that, you're not able to take your emotional support animal just generally where the public is allowed. You can take your emotional support animal to a pet store or to a park or to other places where pets are allowed. You can also take them into airports and airlines with the proper documentation. And you can have emotional support animals in your housing or in an assisted living facility. You can also have emotional support animals in hotels. So thinking about what type of assistance animal is right for me, there's some questions that I want to invite you to consider. If you're in a place where you have an animal who supports you, but maybe you're not quite sure if it's an emotional support animal or a service animal. So the first question to ask yourself is, what do I need help with? What is my disability? And how can an animal support me? And, maybe think about along those lines, do I primarily need emotional support? Is it primarily symptoms of my disability, mentally or emotionally, that I need support with? Or is there a really specific task that I need help with? And then the last thing to maybe think about is, do I need assistance from my animal outside the home? Or is it enough to have my animal in the home? So think about those questions. If you find that what you're needing from your animal is assistance outside the home with specific tasks, then that's a case where I encourage you to look into options for training your service animal. And we can refer you at the Independence Center to some trainers. There's a list of trainers here that are amazing and provide service animal training to dogs. The Canine Companions for Independence is one. Canine Partners of the Rockies is another. Freedom Service Dogs of America is a great resource. And then the International Hearing Dog Incorporated Company is a great resource as well. If you're thinking, on the other hand, that your animal is really helping you with mental health symptoms and emotional support, and you want to go through the process of certifying your animal as an emotional support animal, I want to walk you through what that process looks like. So the first thing that you need to do is talk to a provider who knows you well, maybe a mental health provider like a therapist or a primary care provider, or another medical provider who knows your disability well, and ask them for an emotional support animal letter. The letter needs to include 3 key things. It needs to state that you have a disability that limits your life activities. It needs to talk about how the animal is necessary for helping you with your health or with the treatment plan that you guys are working on together. And then lastly, the person writing the letter needs to indicate that they're licensed. The letter should be written on letterhead, and they also need to indicate that they are providing care to you. So once you have your emotional support animal letter and it's signed and it's on the letterhead of your provider, the next step is to take that and use it in your housing to exercise your rights. And we'll be talking about your rights in housing in just a second. And in this slide, we want to kind of walk you through the process of what to do once you have your emotional support animal letter. So if you live in an apartment or if you rent a house from a landlord, what you'll want to do is provide your landlord with a copy of your emotional support animal letter. And you'll want to renew your letter every year. They expire after 1 year. So you'll want to stay in touch with your therapist or your provider to get that letter renewed. And your landlord, depending on what their process is, might ask you to fill out an accommodation request. If they do, all of the information in your letter should be what you need to fill out that accommodation request. The other piece of what your responsibility is as an owner of an emotional support animal is to simply be a conscientious owner. So, keeping your animal on a leash when you're outside of your property, and providing good care for your animal, cleaning up after your animal. So now we've talked about your responsibilities with your emotional support animal. Now we'll talk about what your rights are. So with an emotional support animal and with that letter, you cannot be denied housing or a hotel stay with your emotional support animal, even if they have a no pets rule. If they have a no pets rule, they need to make an exception for you with your certified emotional support animal. You also cannot be charged a pet deposit or any pet rent or pet fees with your emotional support animal. The one exception to this is if your animal causes damage to the property, then your landlord can legally charge you a fee or some deposit money for that damage. A couple of other pieces to this: your emotional support animal cannot be denied based on allergies or on any person's fears of the animal or even based on breed. All of those pieces might need to be worked out, but you cannot be denied an animal based on any of those things. A couple of other pieces to this in the housing context is that you have a right to privacy protection about your disability. So what that means is that a landlord, if you're having a conversation in public with your landlord or in their office, your landlord can legally ask you how your emotional support animal helps the symptoms of your disability, so kind of teasing out the role that your emotional support animal plays. However, your landlord cannot legally ask you to reveal your disability in public. Your disability will show up on your emotional support animal letter, but that will be kept in a file that is private to you. And you should never be put in a situation in public where you have to reveal your disability. If your emotional support animal is posing a direct threat to the health and safety of other people, or if they're causing really substantial physical damage to rental property, then your landlord can legally deny housing with your emotional support animal. They can't evict you over that, but they can tell you, hey, you need to remove your emotional support animal because they're causing threats to safety or causing damage. There is also some cases that might be a little bit more gray, where your landlord might be experiencing undue financial or administrative burden related to your emotional support animal and their presence on their property. In cases if the animal, for some reason, is fundamentally altering the nature of the services that your housing provider provides, then that will warrant a conversation, and there might be a valid denial there. If you're running into situations like that and you have questions, please feel free to reach out to us. And we do want to inform you that it is illegal in Colorado to misrepresent your pet as an assistance animal. It's also illegal to misrepresent your emotional support animal as a service animal. This law went into effect in 2017, and it can range anywhere from a petty offense to a misdemeanor. You can be fined $25 up to $500 if you're intentionally misrepresenting an animal. And so the word intentional is important there. This law is not meant to limit people. It's truly there to protect the people who genuinely need these assistance animals. It's very similar to laws that make it illegal for people to park in accessible parking spots when they don't really need the spot. It's the same idea with this. We really want to protect people who are genuinely needing emotional support animals and service animals. So be careful with your animal. I hope this information has been helpful. If you have any questions about an assistance animal that you have, you can reach out to us. And in addition to that, if you need help with finding a provider who will write an ESA letter for you, we will work with you and help you connect with somebody who can write a letter for you. I want to give you our phone number so that you can contact us at the Independence Center. It's 719-471-8181. You can also contact our video phone if you are deaf or hard of hearing at 719-358-2513. And lastly, if you are in a situation where your rights are being denied in housing, you can contact us at the Independence Center, and you can also contact Colorado Legal Services. They have attorneys there who specialize in disability rights issues and housing issues. So you can contact them at 719-471-0380. Thank you.